How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the Stupid Questions Podcast. Today on the docket, we're going to be talking with Justin Slade. For those who don't know him, in the triathlon world, he's become somewhat of a household name because he is the, what do we call him, head principal, coach, owner, director of everything at the Aqua Bears Swim Club in Tucson, Arizona. I recently, as of March 7, it's been about 3 weeks since I got to go actually visit Justin and swim with a lot of the cool greats and triathletes at the Aqua Bear Swim Club. We'll talk a lot about that and swimming, but we're also going to talk about just Justin and who he is as a person. Obviously, I would hope you would expect nothing more from that point at this point in the podcast. So thank you so much for jumping in, and without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Justin Slade. Huge giveaway alert. First of all, thank you so much to Synergy Wetsuits for sponsoring today's episode. It is awesome because they are giving away the Sin Skin 3, which is a state-of-the-art swim skin that will make you faster when you are in the water coming into T1. So here's how you enter that. First of all, there will be a link to our Instagram in the show notes listing out these 5 different things you got to do to get in on the giveaway. But they are, first, you got to follow Stupid Questions and Synergy Wetsuits on Instagram. You got to like the giveaway post, tag 3 friends in the comments, sign up for our email newsletter at stupidquestions.show. There's a link at the top of the website and at the bottom where you can drop your email there. And then the 5th thing is leave a review of the podcast on your preferred platform of choice. And again, that link is going to be in the show notes. Go check it out on our Instagram page, Stupid Questions Podcast, Instagram, and it'll be pinned at the top of that Instagram as well. So thank you so much to Synergy for sponsoring today's episode and partnering with us on this giveaway. I look forward to seeing who is going to win. So I loved all the Bears stuff in the background. I guess so when I introduce you on the podcast, most people will already have a little bit of a insight to who you are. So we'll get into more deep stuff in a second. But where do the Bears come from? Like why Aqua Bears?
So Aqua Bears, it came from originally Walnut Creek Aqua Bears. It's a swim team, a relatively old swim team up in Northern California.
Okay.
And there was a coach from South Africa, or a swimmer from South Africa, who came to the States in I think it was the late 60s.
Okay.
And he ended up swimming with these Walnut Creek Aqua Bears up in Northern California. And then he returned to South Africa in the early 70s. And he started a swim team there in my hometown, and he called it the Aqua Bears.
Okay.
And they ended up actually being our rival swim team the whole way through.
Oh, wow.
And then when me and my wife were trying to figure out a name for our new swim team, because we bought the facility about 5.5 years ago. Okay. And I broke away from a swim team that I had started 5 years previous to that. And, I put all my energy into
life, soul, everything.
Yeah, into naming that one and the colors of that one and the culture of that one. And I put everything into it, and now it was like, wow, I've got to do this again. And I had no idea. I was fresh out. I didn't know what to call it, what to name it. And then, I suddenly thought about. I started thinking about my growing up in swimming, like what was around then. And suddenly I'm like, Aqua Bears. And it was something until that very moment in time, they were the rivals. I would never have named anyone it. But in breaking away from this thing that was so close to me, I guess I just felt like, man, all bets are off. I could call it anything. Yeah. And I just mentioned the word Aqua Bear to my wife, and she was like, I love it. Aqua Bears. Aqua Bears. That's what it is. Yeah. And we named it, and I did not like their logo, so we rebranded the logo. My daughter actually helped create that logo that we have somewhere. Yeah.
Is it on your hat right now?
It is on my hat.
Okay,
right now.
there it is. Perfect.
Yeah, she put that together pretty nice for us.
Yeah.
And then the Walnut Creek Aqua Bears are purple and yellow, which is what they were in PE as well. Okay. And I'm like, there's no way we're going purple and yellow. So it was the Bears, and it was a Sunday, and we saw the Bears on TV, and they were navy and orange. And I'm like, man, how about navy and orange? She's like, navy and orange, perfect.
Wow,
So
there
we
you
had the
go.
name, we got the colors dialed in, we got the logo sorted out, and yeah, we were good to go. And it's really like it caught on pretty good. Like it's one of my favorite parts about it is the fact that a lot of people like recognize the name now. And
Mm.
even at swim meets, I'll have a lot of random people come up and they're like, "We really like that name and that logo." I'm like, "Sweet."
Yeah, it's something to be proud of for sure. And it's been 5 years,
Yeah,
you said, since you started it?
5 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, originally I stole the name, like Bono said, right when he's saying "Helter Skelter," when he goes, "This is a song that the Beatles stole, and we're stealing it back." Like
There you go.
basically, Peter Elliott stole that name from Walnut Creek, and then I stole it back.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Wow, what a story. So, something that actually hit me. So, for those who don't know, I got to meet you a couple of weeks ago when I was visiting there in Tucson, and got to swim and experience everything that is Aqua Bears, at least from the outside looking in. So that was an awesome experience. But you said something that really stuck with me when I was asking you about Aqua Bears and how you started it. And you said, when I had the chance to own my own water, that's kind of what it was all about for me. And that really hit me because I've never heard of someone referring to owning any type of a swim center or anything as like owning your own water. So that was unique. But it sounded like it obviously means a lot to you. So what does it mean to you to own your own water?
Man, when you coach, right? You coach and you start teaching, and you
Hmm.
start working with people in the water, kids, adults, whomever it might be. And you start coaching, and you realize you got something. There's something about the way you can teach or the way you can communicate with people about swimming,
Hmm.
and they're pretty quick to let you know that you have that. Right? Hey, wow, thanks.
Yeah.
That really helps. Awesome, thank you. Why do I? And so pretty quick you realize like, okay, I got something.
Hmm.
Um, and so you start doing it. You start doing it and you start doing it and you start doing it. And then you'll get to a point where it's like, okay, you're just going to teach and, you're going to do it as a side thing or you're going to do it as this is going to be my gig. This is what I want to do. And I realized pretty quick, like, man, this is what I want to do. I want to, if people will literally pay me to stand up on a pool deck and teach them about swimming,
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll sign up for sure. Um, but then, real life sets in and it's like, well, how are you going to get paid really?
Mm.
Do you need insurance? And
Hmm.
whose pool are you going to use? And what entity are you going to teach with? Are you just going to be this, the random guy who shows up at a community pool and sneaks in the back door and teaches a lesson and then leaves? You
Hmm.
kind of got to take it more above board than that. So you end up realizing like you got to have an entity, right? And you got to have water. You got to have a place to actually do the teaching and the coaching. Um,
Sure.
and the entities are like they're a dime a dozen, right? They're, swim clubs, swim schools, swim instruction companies.
Hmm.
They're you can get those going relatively easy.
Sure.
And maybe you get some backing from someone else and you form a little company or you do your own thing and you form an LLC or you most traditionally in the swimming world you get together with a group of parents who call themselves a board, and this board
Okay.
runs a 501c3, and you become an employee of this. This is the traditional 90% of swim coaches are working in these conditions where
Okay.
they're working for a 501c3. It's a board of directors that essentially is swim parents
Sounds terrible.
who,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not fun. Um, and and then you have to find water. You have to find a place to swim. And you are either down to, hey, I'm going to rent lanes at the YMCA. I'm going to rent lanes at the local city pool. I'm going to rent lanes from the university. I'm going to rent lanes from the local junior high. I'm going to rent lanes from someone
Hmm.
because, no one's just going to let you walk in there, start teaching, collect money, and not pay for the privilege of using the facility.
Right.
Um, And so then really quick you realize like, man, I'm doing this thing I love to do and I'm like one on one with these people or this group of people and I'm doing what is really fun because helping people in the pool is like super fun. It just is. But pretty quickly you realize like, wow, but for me to do this, I'm at the mercy of this board of directors, and I'm really at the mercy of whoever really controls these lanes.
Yeah.
You know, however much they want to charge for them, whatever times of day they want to say they're available, however many people they want to say you're allowed to put in them, however loud you're allowed to be while you're standing on their deck. Like you're kind of at the mercy of all that stuff. And I don't know, you don't know me super well, but I do my own thing the way I want to do it. It's just the way I've always been.
Sure.
And I bring energy and I take up space. My energy takes up space. And so any pool deck I stand on, it becomes pretty apparent pretty quick that I'm there. Which when everybody's competing for that space, becomes like something that, it just becomes contentious. For me, I've always found pretty quick where, hey, you need to settle down. Hey, you need to be over there. Hey, you can't do that. You can't do this. Where, it just becomes really like oppressive to what I started with, which was, let's do this thing. Let's swim. Here's what we should do. This will be fun. Try this, try that. Just doing it in my way. And so, man, I would venture to say every facility I've ever been at, I've eventually run into the limits of what that facility would allow me to do, you know? And so, then I got the chance. I got blessed, right? I was able to just find this pool. And then once I found it and I saw like what it would be like to have your own space to teach in, although it was little. I mean, I don't know what people think from the outside, but I can tell you our pool, it's really small. There's only 5 lanes. It's really shallow. It's really old. So it's really small. It's really shallow. It's really old.
Yeah.
And so no one really wanted it. That's what ended up happening with this pool, is that no one wanted it. And I remember distinctly voicing my kind of desire to, hey, what about that pool? And being distinctly told by people in the know, no one can run a program out of that pool. That pool doesn't work for what we're trying to do. And I've always had this thought in my mind of like, man, if I just had like my own, even little, I pictured smaller than this, just give me a little space, just a little space to teach swimming in, and I think I can get it done.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, man, 5 lanes, that's better than 2, you know, 6 feet deep at the one end, at least it's not 3 feet deep the whole way through. Old, but still like operational.
Yeah.
So I just went for it. I had the opportunity. The lady who owned it before me wanted out. She said she wanted to sell the pool. I was literally, she told me, the only person who had ever expressed any
interest,
positive energy towards the pool. Because I used to come in here and I'm like, let me just get this straight. You own this pool? She's like, yeah, I own it. And I'm like, man, this lady owns this pool. And she's like part-time coaching, teaching, like very much part-time, not like fully, it's her whole life. And yet she managed to own a pool. I'm like, I always told her, like, I'm impressed by you. And she's like, well, I'm impressed by you. You've coached kids to Olympic trials. You've coached kids to junior nationals. You've had nationally ranked kids. I'm like, yeah, all of that, you own a pool. To me, that's a lot more impressive than taking talented or semi-talented kids and pushing them far in the sport of swimming.
Sure.
So she came to me and she's like, hey, I want out. I want to get out of here. And would you really be interested in buying the pool? I'm like, yeah, I definitely would be interested. But of course, I got to think it through and figure out if I can actually do it. And in retrospect, I didn't give it a whole bunch of thought. I was like, yes, and I just did it. Yeah. And once I had my own pool, then, man, you can do anything. I mean, I can do anything, right? I can put big 8-foot bears on the deck. I can put shade up, a permanent shade structure right at the point where I want it. I can
Mm-hmm.
put the pace clock 5 feet that way. I can put another pace clock at the other end. Uh, I can put a little slidey thing that I need for teaching right here and leave it there. I can replace to the pool. I could do anything that I want that, and basically I work from the place now that
Yeah.
if I was a kid or I was a swimmer and I came in here, what would I want? Like what's cool, what works for what we're trying to do.
Sure.
And then I don't look at what the obstacles are to doing that, like, but how much is that? Or how would that impact the lap swimmers, or how would that or I don't know. I look at it purely from the swimmers, my swimmers, the people who actually come in here and want to learn to swim, have fun swimming and
Yeah.
training. And if in my mind that's going to be beneficial to them or be cool for them, we're doing it. Like,
Yeah.
no questions asked. That's what I do. And so that's why I think people come in now and they're like, man, this is actually like really neat. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just because I've looked at it from like, I want them to come in the gate and be like, this is really cool. I feel comfortable. I feel good. This is going to be a fun hour and a half. And yeah, that's kind of where we go.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It sounds, I mean, there's so many things I could touch on there, but it just seems like it's your way of expressing yourself a lot more.
Totally.
I mean, when I walked in for the first time, I was actually really nervous because I heard of it through friends of friends, and then there's some media out there with it. So I had like these set of expectations. But when I came in there, they were quickly dissolved with the friendliness of it and the atmosphere of it. It was all really just a really awesome experience. And I have to say one thing before I ask a question. One
Yeah.
thing I think that brings so much value to those who enter that space is, so I've been to a bunch of different masters groups, and I've swam seriously maybe for 2 years. So I've been around and tried different things in different cities. But I've never had the experience of, while swimming, having someone project with the volume that you are and telling people, okay, we're leaving on this pace. But the thing that hit me like the most was when you actually called out my name. I think maybe once or twice while we were swimming, and I just met you, and it wasn't just my name; it was a bunch of other people's names. And I think the fact that they can hear you in a position of like, I know what I'm talking about, go do these things, and then you're showing that you're seeing people is such a huge thing. Maybe it's just me, but it left a lasting impact, and I only was there for a couple of hours. So I think that I can only imagine how many people have been impacted by your love and passion and skill set over the years from seeing people. I thought that was really neat. And I'd never swam also in a pool that had speakers underwater, where you're not only playing music, but you're yelling at people and telling them to do this and do that and giving feedback like in the moment. That's something I'd never experienced before. So I guess what I'm saying is thank you. And I'm jealous that I don't live there.
You're welcome. I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I mean, yeah, it's just, I mean, what do they say is the golden rule, right? Like,
Mm.
treat others like you'd want to be treated. Well, if I'm honest with you, out there in the real world, I really struggle with that. I really
Huh.
struggle with it. But for whatever reason, in a pool environment, I'm able to just do that. It just comes really natural to me. I don't know. I guess from the fact that maybe from a really young age, I was most comfortable at the pool,
Mm.
and I was most comfortable swimming. And I was really blessed to have really good coaches.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the most knowledgeable guys or the most technically amazing guys or even the best orators, but just
Mm.
good guys who, kind of what you mentioned there, like when I think about it, like my coaches, they saw me. They
Mm-hmm.
saw me. They knew who I was. They appeared to care about me.
Mm.
And so that's why I try and, like, I guess, pass along where, hey, if you're here, I appreciate you and people like you coming and wanting to swim here as much as maybe you feel, hey, I appreciate you having me here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel great when people want to come here and swim. Why would I not be grateful to that and try and remember your name and
Yeah.
help you out the best I can. I mean, who knows what I told you, right? Probably some random technical detail that I noticed in the moment. But in the end, I don't think those things matter as much as people feeling like, oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
As generalized as that is,
Yeah.
if you can leave somewhere with an experience going, hey, that was pretty cool, as opposed
Yeah.
to like, damn, that sucked, man.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's my goal for the kids. It comes to me. I wanted to get in that car after practice, and mom and dad are like, how's swim? Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Dude, it's perfect. Perfect. If they could say, like, with that genuine, just like, yeah, it was good, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy. Like, that's what I want, as opposed to getting, it was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hate for someone to come here and then feel like, wow, I was expecting like a whole bunch more than that, man, from what I've heard. That would be like my worst case scenario,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
where as opposed to, hey, I come in, I have a certain expectation, and when I left, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, because you were here. I mean, we don't have the greatest facility in the world, and we certainly don't have
Sure.
the greatest coach in the world, and we don't have the greatest swimmers in the pool in the world. Um, but we try and do it our way,
Mm-hmm.
and for the most part, people who come in here see that pretty quickly and enjoy it.
Sure. Yeah. That's definitely legacy. I don't know how old you are. How old are you?
I am 51. Dude, I
Okay.
got asked to the grocery store yesterday. I went
Yeah.
there to buy some milk, and this girl was checking us out. She goes, are you 55? I'm like, what?
Gonna give you your
She's
senior
like, well,
citizen discount.
she was going to give me my every first Wednesday of every month discount.
That's
I'm like,
funny.
oh my gosh. I call my wife. I'm like, the first time ever someone asked me if I'm 55. Because believe it or not, a lot of people are like, oh, you look good for your age. And then I'm like, dude, she was not thinking that.
Yeah, that's so funny. She's probably pretty young. First job, 14,
She,
15. Like
you're
everybody looks
55
old
now?
when you're 15.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, that's so
So
funny.
yeah, 51.
Yeah, 51. Well, that's legacy. I think what you're building there. I'm like foreshadowing here, thinking about the future. And I'm like, somebody I hope ends up one day. And I don't even know if you'd want it, but if somebody, after your long tenure of leading so many souls through this experience that is Aqua Bears and the seasons that you've trained people and you send them off to the next step in their life, like given back to you in some way to give you a little bit bigger water or something else like that. You may not even want it because at that point you've built such a I think
Yeah,
of
I
it's
mean, a
like an
lot of
old
people have
pizza
talked
stone. Yeah.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know that I would want bigger, more water.
Yeah.
You know, that is a good question because if you ask a lot of coaches, that is the goal. I want a long course pool.
Sure.
I want 10 lanes. I want 2 long course pools.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like when you start getting into that, then it's going to be what Chip Kelly just experienced, right? Or says he experienced
Okay.
with the whole leaving UCLA thing
Mm-hmm.
to go and be an offensive coordinator again. I was listening to somebody talking about it the other day. And his whole thing was, man, I realized that here I am in 2023, head coach of UCLA, and I haven't really like taught football to kids in over 15 years.
Mm.
And then he had that chance to actually teach some football to kids. And he's like, what am I doing? And so he's quit, right? He quit and he went to, well, I think
Huh.
when you get into those bigger and bigger bodies of water and you start having to program those and manage
Mm.
those and keep everything in order, pretty quick you're going to get away from the highlight of your day is going out there at 8:15 a.m. and working with some swimmers.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's like a balancing point there where maybe if I was still 25, I'd be like, I want more water, bigger water.
Yeah.
But I feel like
You're
I'm
finding
good.
the good
I'm
seasonings of
good
life.
with this.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
good with this. Yeah.
So I
So,
want to go back to your childhood a little bit because you mentioned some things that brought up some curiosity. So one thing you said was like a lot of your good childhood memories, it seems, were settled around the water and the swimming pool because that's just what you remember. And I'd love for you to dive in a little bit more to that, maybe unpacking why that was the case, or was there something you were trying to escape from, or you were something you were running towards? Like, what do you think where that comes from?
yeah, I think I mean, I was a high energy kid, so I think my parents pushed me towards it because it was something that, hey, you're going to go there and do that for an hour or an
Yeah.
hour and a half. And then by the time you're 11, 2 hours. And then by the time you're 15, 3 hours every day. So it was like, man, go there, burn that off, get rid of all that energy.
Yeah.
Um, and then I really liked the competition of it, I think. I mean, I loved the competition. I loved knowing that I could race people and for the most part beat them. That was
Mm.
just fun for me.
Yeah.
In retrospect, looking back now, like I'm lucky that I was in the era I was and was in the geographical area that I was that I could feel that way because I could be 2022 in, wow, any of these places, the middle of Virginia, the middle of Texas. I
Yeah.
mean, right now, if you're a young kid, 11, 12 years old, swimming competitively anywhere in the US right now,
Mm.
I mean, it's so competitive. So to get to feel the way I got to feel about it, I guess
Yeah.
is harder now. And I actually have to spend a lot of my time trying to sell them on not that part anymore. The part that I was really attracted to, I think, that part of like being super competitive and
Yeah.
wanting to win and knowing I could stand up there and I
Yeah.
could beat you. Um, if that's your motivation nowadays, wow, it's tough because there's so many kids trying to do that now.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, I loved it. I just
Yeah.
loved it. And I do try and sell the kids on that feeling of accomplishment, like that feeling of, man, I did it. Because really in swim, for the most part, that's competitive swim. That's all we get as our reward.
Mm.
Um, is we're, I mean, we're not rewarded financially, that's for sure. We get a chintzy little medal once in a while or a sweet trophy or whatever, but mostly it's that get to the end,
Yeah. Look
look
over,
up
you
at the
made it.
clock, and like, whoa, like I don't know, for just a second there you realize like that feeling of everything that I did, how hard it all was, and you get it right back there in an instant.
Yeah.
Um, and that's diminishing. The other big part of why I liked swim was, being in the grind with other people or being in there together, working that through, which is
Camaraderie.
common to all sports, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that's a big thing about sports. Like we're all in this together and we're kind of suffering to a certain extent. But that experience, like, is rewarding in the end. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a being in the trenches together. Or what?
Yeah.
I'm not making any sense now, but
No, you're totally making sense. Yeah, it gives you purpose. It gives you a sense of fulfillment. I mean, camaraderie. I mean,
yeah,
the reason we do a
yeah,
lot of different things in life for that camaraderie, I think.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know if I was running away from any. I don't know that I was running away from any. I mean, I had a pretty strong desire to be a really good swimmer. I remember
Yeah.
at points in my life, I want to be in the Olympics. I want to break a world record. I want to be the fastest swimmer in the world. And then as you get older and like you realize, like, okay, maybe I'm not going to be the world record holder,
Yeah.
but I still want to like win
Yeah.
nationals. I still want to swim in the US. I still want to make the Olympics. And then you get a little further along and you realize, like,
Maybe not.
probably not going to make the Olympics, man. Yeah, but I still want to XYZ like
Yeah.
you. I had a real desire to, like, really get as much. And I feel like in my swimming, I got as much out of myself as I possibly could. Like,
Yeah.
I don't look back on it, oh, man, if I had done ABC, I could have swam in the Olympics.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I ever could have swam in the Olympics because I gave it every single thing I had,
Yeah.
and that was not the level that I rose to. So, um, but yeah,
The
I
level
think
you
that
rose.
desire,
Yeah.
it was that desire to like achieve, but
Hmm.
I feel like in a like a reasonable way, not in a. I wasn't sitting at 17 years old, going the times I was going in a, whatever my race was at that time, really like saying to myself, I'm going to make the Olympics. But no, I don't. But I knew, hey, that's not where you're going, but I was certainly still going to do ABC in the swimming world. That I felt like for me at that point was like,
Hmm.
that'll be awesome,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Yeah. Good stuff. So you said that you like you from a, I don't know, young age is a good word, but as you started getting into the coaching game, you said it became a pretty apparent to you pretty quick that people either loved you or disliked you based on kind of like the big personality. You said, quote, I do what I want, like you kind of take up your own space. Does that come from something internal, or is that from a little bit of your mom or your dad, or are you totally on your own in that area? Like you were born that way
yeah,
and this is where you're at.
yeah. I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't say I like take after my mom or take after my dad.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's something that just. I mean, if we're being real honest, right? What is it?
I love
It's
it.
insecurity. It's wanting to prove myself. It's wanting to
Sure.
like, yeah, it's insecurity. Really, I think ego,
Yeah.
ego, and insecurity is what makes me. And for being a coach, to a certain degree, like that works really good. It works really well, right?
Mm.
But unfortunately, they'll get to a point pretty quick where it boils over, and then it's
Mm.
not a good thing. So, I mean, yeah, I have to check myself, and I do check myself a lot, pretty regularly, and a lot more regularly than I used to. When I think back now, when I was 30 years old, I mean, I probably was pretty scary, I would
Yeah.
imagine, especially to people who weren't my swimmers. I've always had a connection, I feel like, with my own swimmers. They
Hmm.
get me. They say they can kind of see past all the bluster.
Hmm.
But certainly to like an outsider onlooker, it could be like, whoa, that's too much
Yeah.
over there. And I know that because I see it now. I see it. I see it going on over there, and I'm like, wow, that's a little over the top.
Yeah.
Um, but who am I to call it out? You know, that was
Sure.
me.
So is Justin at 52, you said, is Justin today insecure about anything?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to me about
Um,
it.
what am I insecure? What am I not insecure about? um, yeah, I mean, it's all that's the whole battle for me now is like, you know, trusting God, not being self-centered,
Mm.
not trying to control all the outcomes. Um, yeah, just trusting that like I'm not the overall guiding power of my life.
Mm.
That's for me what's like I have
Yeah,
to
that's
work on.
true.
Um, so and that's where I say like I have to check myself because my natural go to is just to try and take over, try and control all aspects, try and make sure it all works out, and
Yeah.
often that's at my own detriment. You know, it just and I think over time realized more and more and more like you know I'm not the boss of the world.
Mm.
Um, but as a coach, like I said earlier, like as a coach, it's kind of contradictory, right? Because as a coach, I feel like you're kind of, oh, you're the leader, you're the
Yeah.
boss, you're the, hey, I'm in charge. I'll lead us through this. I'll tell you what to do. If you do what I say, you'll get ABC. And
Yeah.
so that really, in a way, contradicts for me, like reality, which is, dude, I don't know shit. I don't know
Mm.
anything. I don't know anything. I don't really know what's going to help you swim faster.
Mm.
I have no idea. I don't know any more than the guy on YouTube knows, or the guy who wrote these books, or the guy who's the other coach down the road. Like I'm just giving you my best guess from my experience.
Yeah.
This is what I think would help. But then that leaves me feeling very like, well, then what am I doing?
Mhm.
Like, do I even have a purpose? Because I'm not even sure that what I'm telling you is right. Um, but I feel like at this stage, like if I can just do my best to help you and let you know, like, and you'll hear it in the way I describe it to you. Hey, from what I can see in my experience, this might help. This might be better. And for a lot of people, they do turn around and go, wow, that really helps. That really helps. Well, then that gives me like, you know, confidence again. Like, okay, I can do this. Like, but then it's back to, hey, you should do this. This is what works. And it's like,
Yeah.
that, you hear what I'm saying? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. Like, coaching to me it's a weird dynamic. Like, and there's the football coach mentality or the traditional football coach mentality,
Hmm.
I mean, one of my favorite football coaches is Pete Carroll, and I think Pete Carroll does the best job of, like, not not being the big bad guy, not the guy who tells them what they got to do.
Yeah.
He almost allows them. He gives them like the space and the freedom and the comfortableness to kind of do the best they can. He allows that to happen. He doesn't like
Yeah.
force it.
Yeah. Creates
Um,
that space and lets them go.
yeah, he does a really good job of that. I mean, I've never heard any other football coach ever tell a team like, dude, guys, it's fine if we lose. Like, it's fine if we lose. It's not about if we win or lose. It's about like what we're doing.
Hmm.
I mean that you got to be pretty secure in yourself to be able to say that to a football team. Where
Especially
like,
with the prestige of that position in the world we live in
yeah, and
today.
you're like, and when that is the truth, right? Like he
Yeah.
tells those guys, like, dude, I'm gonna love you guys whether we win or lose. Right now, I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah.
Man, how free does that let the guys be?
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
To go out and perform.
to go out and do their thing, as opposed to like, we gotta win this, we gotta do this, we gotta, you
Yeah.
know.
I think there's a lot to it because when I was going to ask you this question, is like, do you think that technical coaching matters more or belief in your athlete? Because for me, in my experience, like growing up, I did a little bit of like acrobatics and gymnastics and stuff. And the best times I ever performed were, and it wasn't even a big necessarily a competition, or maybe it was a decent sized one. But when my coach, like, I really felt like he believed in me and gave me whatever the right words were to where like mentally I checked into a new place and I felt like I can go and execute. And it's the same for swimming. I mean, I swam the best I've ever swam was at Aqua Bears, and I kind of to pay tribute to like you saw me and you saw all of us. So I feel like there's a big piece to play in the belief because yeah, at the end of the day, it's really not about this game. It's we always say it's about the process, but it's hard to check into that mental space. I think at all
Yeah.
times.
I mean, you've got to have the technical components, right? I mean, that's
Sure.
just so obvious to me. But uh, I, I believe that like, especially swim, like the technical aspects of swimming a correct stroke are not that difficult to learn and understand and
Hmm.
even implement. Like, that can be done. That is not difficult. Swimming really fast through water is extremely difficult. Like,
Mm.
extremely difficult. We weren't we were not designed to be in the water. We're not efficient in the water as human beings. Um, so there's a huge gap there. Like, the understanding and learning about a high elbow catch and understanding that you need to be in a super straight line and you need to be flat on the surface and you need to not break your line when you breathe and you need to keep your kick nice and compact and you need to keep your pulls in underneath you and you need to rotate slightly to get a better kind of angle on the water and all of
Hmm.
that. Like, it doesn't take years to get all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
any competent person can pick that stuff up and understand it and get it within a couple of weeks or months. I mean, I've had people come in here who study swimming on YouTube and books. I mean, they
Hmm.
know more than I do about angles of attack and vertical forearms and buoyancy, but yet they can't execute it. They go, well,
Hmm.
I shouldn't say they can't execute it. They can even execute it. It can look like really pretty in the water. Like I video them, I'm like, man, technically there's nothing wrong. Okay, well,
Yeah.
why am I going 121 on 100? That's a great question. That's
Hmm.
the real question. You're doing everything. And so there's this huge gap. And if I knew what was in that gap, I'd be really rich, right? I'd be
Yeah.
really rich because I'd be able to like come in here and I'll tell you the secret to it. But I don't really know, you know, and there's that part of me believing in you and me encouraging you and me
Hmm.
kind of bringing you along. But there's still, I believe, like a huge part there that like
It's just kind of
none
an
of us
unknown.
really understand. You know, there's
Yeah.
not, or if we do understand it better than someone else, we sure as heck can't control it and manipulate it and like take another person and put them in there and be like, hey, I can just take you and put you
Yeah.
in there and you're going to be the next like great front pack swimmer.
Hmm.
I don't know about that. That like, I'm always really wary of especially swim coaches who somehow convey the idea that if you do what I say, you'll be X.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know about that. Like, is there really someone out there who, if I just go and swim with them, I'm suddenly going to be on the front pack, that kind of, not suddenly. I come over there and I do everything you say, everything. I follow your program to the T.
Hmm.
You're telling me now I'm going to be front pack swimmer at Kona. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Anybody? Anybody? I could take like anybody and do that. And I know there's people out there and coaches out there who really give that, hey, come and do my program and you'll be X.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's quite that there's that big unknown I just spoke about. Like
Yeah.
I
Especially
don't
with
think so.
water sports. Swimming's so different too, because everyone talks about this whole feel for the water thing, but I feel like it's almost like when you hear business people or self-help people talk about self-awareness, it's like you can describe it, but until you actually experience it, it's really hard to get a grip on because water acts so differently. It's
It's
just
so
it's
I mean
yeah.
it's the weirdest medium I think that we have to execute sport in, right? Like,
Hmm.
you know, I mean, we're land animals, number one. We're designed to walk around on our two legs upright. That's what we were designed really to do, right? Do
Yeah.
things in front of us, pull bows and arrows and pick
We're going
fruit
back to the
and
Serengeti, yeah.
dig things, but everything was, we were definitely weren't designed to be like horizontal
Yeah.
and then have our face down in water. We can't even breathe,
Yeah.
you know. Um, we feel the sink of it right away. So it's, I mean, it's a really tough medium to even just get comfortable in initially. And then
Yeah.
you get to like the next level of like, okay, how do I like grab onto the stuff to move myself through it? Um, and then the big one, and I try and explain this to my swimmers and anyone who really I work with, is the big kicker for me is the exact medium that we're trying to leverage against to move ourselves forward. It's that exact medium that is resisting us from moving forward.
Hmm.
Right? The water's creating the resistance. Like the reason we don't get down there in 5 seconds is because there's water in the way and it's holding
Yeah.
us back. And yet the only way we can get down there is to leverage against that water. So it's like the same medium that you're grabbing onto is the same thing. When you're like biking is a lot more simple, right? I leverage on the cranks and I have the wheel on the road and
Hmm.
then the air is the resistance. So it's like
Yeah.
separate. I can minimize the resistance and I can maximize the propulsion. It's like a pretty simple thing to get. In the pool, it's like, it's the same medium.
Yeah.
So it's just a real tough feel. And I don't know that it's describable. you said it. Like it's not I don't know that it's a describable thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm always wary of someone who's like, yeah, I'll get you there. Oh, so you've now managed to be able to perfectly describe to someone how to grab water
Mm-hmm.
to move down that pool at the speeds that some people are capable of. I mean,
Yeah.
because some of
Yeah.
these guys and girls can move in the water, like
Mm-hmm.
move. And you've seen it, right? You've seen
Yeah.
videos. And when these ASU men last night broke the NCAA record, I mean, these guys are
They're flying.
flying through the water, absolutely flying. Some would say, oh, well, it's Bob. I don't know if it's Bob.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a fascinating topic. Super fascinating. I could talk about it all day. And I'm sure that's why you love it, because you can talk about it all day and continue to execute on it and find work around it. But I want to ask you a question that I actually meant to ask you at the beginning. And so now we have a little bit more context for who Justin is, especially in the swimming world. But dropping that aside for the second, I want to ask you the question, who is Justin Slade?
Oh, dude, you're killing me.
Dig deep. Dig deep. Here we go.
Who is? You sound like my sponsor.
Your sponsor?
My sponsor, yeah. I mean, I guess. Okay, you'll. I'm an addict.
Okay.
I'm an addict. So I would have to say that like first, because that's what I am. Um, and I'm actually grateful for that because if I believe I've learned more from having to kind of be honest enough with myself to realize that I am an addict, um, than I have from anything else.
Hmm.
So um, now I'm an addict in recovery, so I have to work a program to make sure that I don't go out and get high every day. I
Hmm.
have to work a program to make sure I don't act out in self-destructive ways every day.
Hmm.
Um, so, and that's really kind of the the angle I have to take or the approach I have to take on everything is I have to remind myself, hey, I am an addict and I'm not in control and I'm not going to always have my way.
Hmm.
Um, because I think for a lot of my life, I lived my life acting and believing like I was the one who was in control. I did know better than everybody else. And I could manipulate everything to go my way.
Hmm.
Um, and when you're living that way, it's like, it's hard. It's a hard thing to live. Um, so, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep going because, I mean, these are some deep introspective thoughts, and I feel like most people don't have the, going back to feel for the water or self awareness to be able to claim that. I'm not in a place to go against you and say, oh, Justin's not an addict. My hesitation to just take that at face value is to say, like, okay, well, Justin may have addictions or may have a propensity to become addicted to things. I also have that same propensity to identify as an addict. Like I heard this really interesting quote talk from Tony Robbins, and
Well,
I don't necessarily think it's neither here nor there, correct or incorrect, but I thought it was interesting that he said, um, this lady came up to him after one of his talks, and he said, "Oh, I've been 47 days sober," and he was like, "Well, why are you counting?" Because if you're counting, then you're identifying as an addict, and you're just counting down the days until you fall again. And I have had friends who have overcome different addictions, and they counted all the way up to like 400, and then they finally let it go. But
Yeah.
I don't want you to, like, as a person who's invested in you, I don't want you to see you to say like, oh, I'm just an
Yeah.
addict, but I don't know what
No,
else is
not
going
just
on
an
up in here.
addict. So a real addict. So when I hear that story, right? So
Hmm.
Tony Robbins clearly then is not an addict. He's
Sure.
what I would call a normie. Because a normie wouldn't get what it's like to be an addict. An addict is, well, how do we identify an addict? An addict is a person who realizes that I'm not I'm not actually in charge of my life. Like, I'm not. I think I am. And I do have self will. Don't get me wrong. I have self will
Yeah.
for sure. Actually, I have a really strong self will.
Right.
But I'm actually not who's in charge of my life. And an addict is someone who truly, well, this is hard for me to realize.
Hmm.
Um, why do I identify as an addict? Because I am. If I don't work a program, if I don't acknowledge on a daily basis that there is a power greater than me that is in
Hmm.
charge, and if I choose to turn aspects of my life that all aspects of my life over to that higher power, that's what's going to work for
Sustain
me.
you.
As opposed to me trying to
Do it yourself.
take control and control outcomes.
So then let's pause that for a second, unless you're about
Yeah,
to spit out a thought, because I have something I think would come
yeah.
around well to this. Because you've mentioned a few times a higher power. We've talked about God. So I'd want to ask you, or I'd love to ask you, in your eyes, like, who is God to you?
Ooh, who is God? I mean, personally, I believe
Yep.
in God, the creator of the universe. Like, I
Hmm.
believe there's a power, an entity that created this universe. Right? That's my God.
Yep.
But I would also be really quick to point out that I don't believe that it's important who my God is, as important who my God is, as the fact that I have a God.
Sure. Okay.
And I have a God that I believe loves me, cares for me, looks out for me
Hmm.
if I choose to allow him or her to do that,
Sure.
you know. Um, whereas the way I used to live my life was, yeah, there's a God there, but I don't need you, man.
Hmm.
I'm good. I can handle this. I can take care of this. I still am very easy to turn to that of like, dude, I don't need any of you and I don't need you and I'll take care of this. Let me take care of this
Hmm.
because no one else can. And I guess that comes from that part of insecurity and fear of like, if I don't, what will happen? And when you turn it over to a higher power, oh God, then you just trust like it doesn't matter what happens here, I'll be okay.
Hmm.
You know,
There's a level of faith,
I'm looked after. Yeah, I'm
peace.
yeah at peace. Oof, that would be amazing to be at constant peace.
Yeah, I don't think anyone on Earth has truly experienced constant peace
Yeah,
in any constant of time.
yeah. So, and you really making me think. I just want to do this. Can we stretch this whole one, and then we'll start over tomorrow, and I'll try and verbalize it all a lot better.
No, I think it's good because so most we in a lot of context, we don't talk about these things in a public setting, and then we wish like we could go back and maybe say it again. But I think that I'm happy we're recording talking about these things, because it's in the moments when we're caught a little off guard, at least in my experience, when I am not forced but asked to verbalize these things, that I start to realize like, oh wow, the thing that in my mind I thought made sense, when I try to verbalize it actually doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying that to say what you're saying is not making sense, but I think that it brings it around to us and to me whenever I verbalize things is like it's concrete at that point, and then I have to look at it and I have to say like, is that true? Do I
Yeah.
really believe that? Why or why do I not believe that? And
Yeah.
if people can hear that conversation, because a lot of the times these happen off camera or off, not on a recording, then it can hopefully like stir people to think like, oh, interesting. Well, why do I feel this way? Am I an
Yeah.
addict or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're doing
Yeah.
great, is what I'm saying.
Thanks, man. Seth, you're the man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So let me ask a few more questions, if I may. If you still have
Yeah.
time, are you good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
So on the topic of kind of where we're still circling around this thing, we went from addict to
Yeah.
we're talking about God a little bit. You mentioned if I don't give up this desire for control, then you feel like then you're going down the addict's pathway. You're on the highway to hell essentially, or whatever. Like if you're not giving that up. So is this something that you do daily? Is it something you do weekly? And like
Yeah, I have
practically?
yeah. Um, I mean, I have to on a daily basis, yeah, connect with my higher power. I mean, it's what I try and do first thing in the morning when I first wake up. Connect with my higher power. Be grateful for what I have. Ask for help during the day, whatever I may encounter. Can I handle it with grace, dignity,
Mm-hmm.
love, as opposed to like anger, rudeness, impatience, like we call them in recovery, we call them spiritual principles, trying to live by spiritual principles as opposed to just living by what do I want? How do I feel
Mm.
right now? And what do I want because of how I feel? Which
Yeah.
is what kind of my unchecked, that's what I do.
Yeah. Natural inclination.
My natural inclination is to be super self-centered,
Mm.
to look out purely for myself. And I don't think that's how we were really designed to be. Because I found myself really, really, really unhappy
Mm.
living that way. Not really knowing why. It took me a long time to realize why. Why you're unhappy. You had everything everything you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Because what did I want? I wanted fast swimmers. I wanted to coach fast swimmers. I wanted to be a successful swim coach. I
Yeah.
wanted people to be like, man, he's a really good coach.
Yeah.
But and then at the end of the day, if not at various intervals in between, but at the end of the day, check in with a higher power again. And once again, like gratitude for
Gratitude.
what has happened. Maybe check myself on, hey, this happened. How did I react? Did I react in spiritual principles? Um, if not, do I have amends to make to someone? Do I have something that I need to
Mm.
write? And then um, take care of that, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard of the 12 steps, right?
Of
Have you heard of the
course.
12?
Yep.
Yeah, of
I
course.
Yeah, I did. I've done a program that was modeled after Alcoholics Anonymous for like sexual addiction for pornography and stuff. So I've gone
Yeah,
through
yeah.
it.
So
Yeah.
you've done the 12 steps. So, yeah. I mean, my fellowship is called NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous,
Okay.
which is the greatest one of all.
Mm,
I'm
yeah.
joking. I mean, everyone believes they're programmer. But
Sure.
Narcotics Anonymous had, like, absolutely saved my life and changed my life, like 100%.
Good.
100%. And the 12
That's awesome.
steps. I mean, the 12 steps, like, to me, it's just a little manual for living life. The 12
Yeah.
steps are just a little like, hey, here's literally 12 steps that if you follow them through and work them
Yeah.
into your life, you're going to have an easier time than trying to just go at it with what you've figured out in your mind, or what I've figured out in my mind is the way life's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Because I found out pretty quick, like it doesn't work how I want it to work.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, yeah, if I my goals on the daily now are just to be able to literally check in with my higher power and with myself more often than what I do.
Mm.
If the more often I can check in, or I think I referred to it earlier as like checking myself. I like checking myself. And for me, that checking myself is connect to the higher power. Just connect to the higher power. Remind yourself that as much as I might believe and right in this moment that I know what's best, maybe I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I
Mm.
don't. So
Yeah, that checking it, I think it matters. For me, so I grew up in like a Christian household. At the same time, my parents were kind of like first generation Christian, really, where my dad was, and I've said this in other podcasts, so apologies for people for hearing the same story, but for your context, um, dad grew up drug dealing, mom, not really in a religious household, very crazy, broken family now. Love the ones that are still around, but so I had this interesting experience growing up in a household where it was like, I don't want to say 50-50 because I don't think it was exactly 50-50, but half the time it was like, hey, we're going to church, we're going to do this thing. And the other half the time it's like dad struggling with, substance abuse and, I'm finding stuff and asking him what it is and he's denying it. And it's like we're kind of going this back and forth. So I had a very real view growing up of, okay, well, here's what religion or spirituality is, and then here's what everything else the world has to offer. And so in a lot of ways, I'm actually thankful for it. Not in the way that, because it was bad for my mom and dad when they were going through the rough times, but it was very plain to me, especially after getting to an age of maturity where I could look back on things and understand the context of situations for why they were doing what they were doing, and say like, okay, well, now I have before me in my life these set of options, and I've seen my parents make almost both sides of this decision, and now I can kind of move forward, hopefully with a little bit more wisdom and intentionality.
yeah,
Um, but the one thing, so my dad passed away when I was young, but the one time I saw him mostly, or not the one time, but the times I most saw him happy were when he was having that daily connection. And there was very few times that my dad kind of like brushed me away, but a few times it was when he was in that moment, kind of going away by himself to do that connection time, reading his Bible and whatnot. And that was stuck with me as like a very powerful moment. So to hear you say like, yeah, like a daily or multiple times a day thing, I think is key to it. And I haven't figured it out. I'm, yeah, quite young and still figuring out life. So yeah.
yeah. It's. I mean, it's life is life is hard. I feel like life is hard, and it's something that I've tried to like kind of attack and take on,
Hmm.
where maybe that's not really the way it was supposed to. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be much more. Um, it's supposed to be
Fluid.
simpler than what I've made it. Like
Yeah.
life doesn't have to be difficult and complicated and turn this way and turn that way and do this. And it's actually really simple.
Hmm.
And I tend to overthink it and overwork it. Same as some of these guys in the water, right? They just overwork it.
Yeah.
And
Just
hey, just
slashing the line.
just that they believe like, but if I'm not doing that, like I have to do this. 'Cause if I
Hmm.
don't, I'm gonna go slower. And it's like,
Not
no,
always.
you could actually chill a whole bunch and you might find that you're just as effective, maybe even more effective than what you would have been doing it this way.
Mm.
And that's the exact way I am. It's really hard for me to accept and believe, I guess, in some
Yeah.
moments in time that, hey, if I just let this go, it might actually work out without me like having to make it be that way.
Yeah.
Um, so
So
yeah,
I'll ask another question about life.
yeah.
What do you enjoy most about life? Because we've talked about a lot of the challenges, but what is the thing you enjoy most? And I feel like I might know what you're going to say, but I'm asking it anyway.
What do I enjoy most?
Like, what brings you the most sense of joy, I guess, is a better way to phrase it.
Yeah. Um, I get a real sense of joy seeing my kid, watching my own personal kid, seeing my kid.
Mm,
Um, so I had a kid when I was relatively young, had a kid out of wedlock, they say. Um, and so I I had to go through a full childhood,
yeah.
lifetime childhood, 18 years of I was very much a part of his life and there for him and but it wasn't a regular traditional family. Um, and so I pretty much lived for 18 years like constantly in in fear that he would get taken away from me.
Mm,
Um,
wow.
and so now him being, my son is now 26 and I get to see him on the daily and I get to, it's, I mean, he's an adult who he could be anywhere he wanted right now. He could be doing anything he wanted.
Yeah.
And it has so worked out that I get to see him every day and he's chosen to be here in Tucson, Arizona. And
Hmm.
um, so seeing him and watching him is definitely like the greatest thing I have in my life, Just
Hmm.
so grateful that like when I think how badly I wanted him when he was a
Hmm.
little kid and I felt like I didn't have him. And now he's just right here all the time.
Yeah.
That's like amazing for me, really amazing.
Yeah.
Um, second, second to, um, I get a real thrill out of seeing little kids have fun, like
Hmm.
real fun, like real. If I
Yeah.
see a little kid light up, that does something for me like that I can't even describe.
Hmm.
And so I get a chance almost every day to see a little kid light up, like really light up,
Yeah.
where like you see in their eyes, like they're just like so excited and happy
Yeah.
about something, uh, like real joy, like real unbridled,
Mm,
uncontaminated, just
yeah.
real joy about
Unadulterated joy.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just that, and to be a part of that and get to see that, and you know, I think if you take that and then somehow I'll get the feeling like I even helped that occur
Yeah.
in that moment. Like that's like that on steroids. Like whoa,
Yeah.
that's like so cool,
Yeah.
so cool. Um,
Great sense of fulfillment.
yeah, like or just to be like a part to be in with. I just want to like elbow them with the side and be like, dude, yeah, exactly. I got
Yeah.
you. I mean, my favorite people like 4 to 7 year olds.
Yeah.
Like a 4 to 7 year old is like my kind of person,
Yeah.
straight up. Like that's just
Yeah.
how I am. I don't know why, but that's just how I am. Like those are my people.
Yeah.
Four to 7 year olds.
That's so funny. Well, they see
That
the
is,
world through a different set of glasses. I mean, when you're that age, the world is very black and white. Good is good, bad is bad. Mom and dad are right, even though I may not listen to them. Like it's a simple way to live.
yeah,
So it makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah, enjoying the
yeah.
simple
They don't.
moments.
Yeah, exactly. They don't put up these facades of like, I
Yeah,
mean, if they're upset, they're upset, and if they're happy, they're happy, and
yeah,
that's why to me, when one of them says something super positive or super excited about this,
yeah. You can take it to the bank.
I know, like, dude, they're they're not blowing smoke up my butt. Like they really think that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I get that on the daily. I mean, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's a
Really
blessing.
cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I have a few more questions, kind of shifting gears,
Yeah.
going over because yeah, and let me know if you have to run because I want to be respectful of your
Yeah.
time.
I'm good right now.
Okay, so I don't have a lot of prior knowledge to you before the days of Mr. Lionel Sanders. I think he really brought an awareness, at least in my eyes, to like this area. Obviously, he lives there, but Aqua Bears. So, what has it been like for you gaining popularity and kind of fame in that space? Or do you think?
um, to be honest, like I don't really feel like I'm popular or famous in that space because I don't I'm not online a lot
Mm-hmm.
and I actually don't know too much about the triathlon world. I'm not involved in the triathlon world very
Yeah.
much. So from just my point of view, having Lionel around has been like it's just brought a whole I've been able to meet a lot more people like you,
Mm-hmm.
people that know him. And then because of him, I mean, to me, he must be really famous and he must be really popular because the number of people who've come to the pool because Lionel is here or has been here or has said something about this place
Mm-hmm.
is huge. I mean, huge. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm always kind of in awe of how far they've come or what, the fact that they've just heard about this and then chosen to like
Come check it
come
out.
and come and check it
Yeah.
out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just try and remind myself like I'm just a swim coach. I'm just a swim coach who
Yeah.
coaches swimming and yeah, what is the difference? What was the question? Remind me of the question.
Yeah, so like what's it been like gaining popularity in that space? Because I imagine before him there wasn't many triathletes coming to your pool and like
There
seeking
were,
the
yeah,
the
no
special sauce
triathletes
from
coming.
Justin.
Yeah. Um, I guess I don't, yeah. Aside, I don't feel like I'm famous or popular. So it's a hard question to answer. I feel just the same, like,
That's a good answer.
because if you had come in 6 years ago,
Hmm.
and you'd be like, hey, I'm in town, I'm a triathlete, I need a place to swim, you got a group here. I would have treated you and done the exact same thing that I did with you that I did when you came here 3 weeks ago. It would
Yeah,
have been, you would have actually had the exact same experience, even though there was no Lionel and there was no
sure.
YouTube and there was no like, I think if you ask someone from, 8, 9, 10 years ago who had, for whatever reason, they just came to Tucson to visit and then happened to look up online for a place to swim and they came here and they met me and they jumped in on our little workout, they would have left, I think, with the same perception you left of like,
Yeah,
well, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I liked that. I would go back there again if I was here. So it's all exactly the same. And I guess the one part I don't like about being famous or being associated with like, hey, that's Aqua Bear and that's where like those famous triathletes go and swim and
sure.
is I guess if I have to hear negative talk about me or about my swimmers, because I consider Lionel now to like be my swimmer. Like people who
Hmm.
swim under, if I'm coaching you, then in my mind, you're my swimmer. And if you're my swimmer, then I care about you and I
Sure.
care about what people say about you. And I don't like hearing the negative. And that is not the reason that I'm not on social media a lot.
That'd
Um,
be a good
but
reason.
I am
Yeah.
super grateful that I'm not, because even when I hear about it, because all the guys that I'm around are on it, so I will
Yeah.
hear, and I
Yeah.
hear certain things, and if I hear enough about one thing, I'll actually go and then seek it out myself to look, to see, is this really what was said or was being said? Um, and like that idea that, you know, people think that they know what's best for Lionel, or that um, this is just a bunch of there's nothing good going on over there. Like it's just all hype or fake, or he doesn't really know what he's doing. Yeah, I never
Hmm.
really said I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? But what I
Yeah.
can tell you is it's not fake, and it's not
Yeah.
just a made up thing. And I'm not just doing it because, I want to be famous. Yeah, so that part is a little bit harder for me, like because my natural tendency is to want to fight back against that. If I hear or see that somebody was, saying negative stuff about
Yeah.
Lionel, and Lionel's the easiest one, right? I mean, it's not, you
Yeah.
don't need to be a super duper know-it-all to be able to like pick apart Lionel's swim. I mean, is
Yeah.
there anything easier to do in the world than like critique how Lionel Sanders swims?
Hmm.
Anybody can do it. But just to sit there and say stuff when you don't even know him, or
Yeah. It's
how,
mean.
or what he's really putting into it, or how hard we try. Like, yeah, you could critique it, but I don't think they understand like how much hard work goes into it. You don't even get a 1/10 of the reality, I don't think, in watching those videos
Of
or
what's going on.
posts or whatever, of how much work actually goes into it. Like
Hmm.
I mean, it's constant daily grind over and over and over. And there's not a lot of like positive proprioceptive or clock feedback coming at you constantly.
Yeah.
Lionel doesn't like make progress on the daily in his swim where he's like, oh yeah, I'm on the right track. This is going great. This is what's going to work. I'm
Yeah.
getting better. Like, dude, he's got to get in there and grind it out another day and just try and understand what's being presented to him, and accept that working hard like this is going to work, and his swim is going to get better. Like, man, it's so hard to do that. So, so, so hard just to keep going. And then, people catch a little snapshot of it, and then they've got the audacity to like critique it or critique what he's trying to do, or like, but I
Yeah.
guess that's the nature of the game. I mean, but yeah, I'm glad I'm not obsessed with that part of it.
Yeah.
I'll have to catch myself. If I go and check something out, I will have to like consciously remove myself from it, remind myself that does not matter at all, and
Yeah.
just pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Good stuff. Well, I
yeah.
mean, you care. I can tell that you care. So that makes me want to move to Tucson. So
Yeah, I mean it's fun, and that's
yeah.
what I try and sell them on. Like, even Lionel, I will literally try and sell him on. Like, hey, this is the process, the experience. It's about this, actually. Would I love for Lionel to win Kona, and would I love for Lionel to like catch the back of that front pack one day, and or be right on the front of the second pack, or whatever the case is, and
Yeah.
get out of that swim and know like, wow, he's got a real legit shot of winning this race without just some superhuman Lionel performance. Just
Yeah.
yeah, it would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But when I'm 70 and he's 50 and we're looking back, it's going to much more be about what goes on here on the daily basis. And, you know, I think we have a good time. Like it's a good time, man.
Yeah.
Again, going through the process of trying to become a better swimmer and a better triathlete and be the best Ironman in the world. I mean, it's fun. It's like really fun just to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I try and stay focused on that and not worry too much about like, you know, what if he doesn't win?
Yeah.
What if he doesn't win? Yeah. What if he swims slower than he did before? That would be my worst case scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lionel swims slower than he did before. And everyone's like, yeah, you're that Aqua Bear. He doesn't know nothing. Like, he took that guy and he made him even slower. That would be my worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what we were talking about earlier, like I just have to accept, like if that's how it's supposed to work out, then that's how it'll work out. I don't have control over how that'll be or what people will think of that. And does it really matter? No, not really, because I still get to go out there and my kid will still be out there and I still have this pool and I still get to like work with those little kids every day. And, you know, it's not a bad life.
Yeah. Good deal, man. Well, one final question, because I know you got to get going. If you were to give some advice to your younger self, let's just pick the ripe age of 21 years old.
Yeah.
What would that advice be?
I would listen to the people who told me that getting angry was going to cause me the most pain in my life. I got warned about that when I was really young. That anger is going to hurt you. And for the longest time, I didn't believe that. Even when it was hurting me, I didn't. So, yeah, anger, dealing with and figuring out why I got so angry.
Yeah.
How about that?
That's great advice. I mean, you feel like you were talking to me. I went through and ironed through a wall when I was younger because I was so angry. So I had to learn that the hard way as well.
Anger is the absolute worst.
It is.
The absolute worst.
Yeah. I think there's a place for anger, but not unbridled anger aimed at ones who we call our loved ones. It's like the worst form.
Yeah. So, and like I said, it's not like someone didn't. And I distinctly remember at the ripe old age of 21, a wise man or two looking straight at me and saying, that's going to be an issue, man. And me not listening.
Yeah.
You know.
Deep.
So.
Well, Justin, it has been an honor and a pleasure to pick your ear for the past hour and a half. Thank you so much for unpacking so many cool things with me. I think it's a great episode. I really enjoyed getting to know you more, and I hope that I get to come out there before too long.
Definitely. Anytime. Anytime. Yeah. Bring Matt, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right, man.
Hey, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Seth.
Thank you so much to Justin for coming on today's episode and being so vulnerable again and just allowing me to dig deep into his life and everything he's got going on. I love the swimming talk. I haven't been swimming that long, but I love getting into the details of it, and then hearing about his life was a true honor. If you made it to this point in the podcast, just want to say thank you so much. Wherever you're listening and watching, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those, if you wouldn't mind giving us a like, maybe a subscribe, turn the notification bell on, leave a comment, drop a review, all of those things would really help us to continue to grow and get the word out there about this podcast. I love doing this, and I want to continue to do it for a long time to come, but it's not cheap. So if you would like to help sponsor the show or help support it, you can find those details on our website at stupidquestions.show, and you can also sign up for a newsletter. I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for checking out this episode, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.